What is up, beautiful readers? It's Sky, and we're back with another video. What is up, reader friends? How's it going? I hope you're having a great day. I am really excited to be here filming this video because we are going to be doing a tag video, which was created by Kristy over at Grace-Filled Reads. If you are not subscribed to Kristy, I will link her video in the description box. She is one of the sweetest people, and her channel is just so endearing, and she just brings a unique perspective to the books that she reads. But beyond that, you know, she not only has an amazing joy and love for the Lord, I look up to her because she is a wonderful mom. She's in school, and she basically is a rock star. She juggles all these things and still finds the time to post videos on YouTube, okay? So I highly recommend her channel. I think you should subscribe, so I will link it in the below if you're interested. But a couple of days ago, she released a Meet the Booktuber tag, and she tagged a few channels, and she happened to tag mine, so thank you so much, Kristy, for doing that. But the questions in this are really fun. They're unique, and like she said in her video, I agree. I think a lot of our answers would be very different to these questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it so I'm not wasting a lot of your time. We're gonna go ahead and get started with question number one. So question one is, how do you decide what genre of books you like or what you like to read? And this, I don't think I really decided a certain genre. It kind of just happened organically. I will say I read a lot of YA in my 20s, late teens, I guess I would say. Now I definitely love me a fantasy book, fantasy series, but I'll read anything: romance, Christian fiction, historical fiction. Like, there are no bounds to what I am willing to try and pick up. I have recently fallen in love with a lot of nonfiction as well. So, you know, I'll read anything. And what I like to read varies. It's kind of like my taste in music. I listen to everything and kind of just find my favorites in each genre. So that's my answer to that question. Two is, what author is most like me? This, yikes, I don't know. I'm trying to take a look here and see what authors I even have. I don't even know, you guys. Like, I probably should have thought of this. I don't know. The thing is, I don't really know authors, like, personally, really. I just know their stories, so I don't really know if there's an author like me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I can answer this question because, you know, I relate to certain stories, so their stories relate to me, but yeah, I don't really know if I can answer that. That's a great question, though. I don't know if I have an answer for it. If you do have an answer, though, for yourself, let me know in the comments. What book would you take if you were stranded on an island? Well, of course, like, a baseline answer would be the Bible, right? But we're going to pretend like that's not an option here. What book would I take with me if I was stranded on an island? I'm just trying to take a look at, like, the books that I have here. Maybe, oh gosh, you know, there's so many good ones, but I would want something that, like, would remind me that I am not alone, kind of thing, and, like, help center me, because I feel like being on an island would be kind of tough. So maybe The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp would be one. A Voice in the Wind series might be another. Just something that would help ground me and center me as I'm alone, you know? Probably that. Question 4. I love this question. It's, do you like books to read them or because they look pretty on your shelf? And I would have to say definitely both. Most of the books that I own, I have read, but some of the books that I own, I bought because they're pretty. So, like, for instance, I have this one here, which is, I don't know if you guys know who Florence and the Machine is, but this is that artist's, like, poetry and lyric collection, and I haven't read all of the way through, but it's a stunning book. So yeah, definitely both for me. Of course, I love to read them, but there is a healthy mixture, I think, of buying books because I want to read them and buying books because they're pretty. So I'm okay with both. Question 5 is, what book, if you read it years ago, would have changed your life? And I'm going to go with Atomic Habits by James Clear. I read this at the beginning of this year, and it was just so simple, but so jarring to the way that it just really changed my perspective on habits and how you can really take control of your life. If you want to do something, you can do it, but you just got to take the necessary steps. They could be small at first to do it. And I just wish I would have read this in college when I was playing sports. Like, it just really helped motivate me to start the year off on a good note. You can see I annotated quite thoroughly. And this is something that I think I will read at the beginning of every year, because it was just so applicable and helpful to making life, I would say it helps you achieve the things that you want to achieve, and you just got to do it. And this helped make that daunting task very minute for a day-to-day process. I hope that made sense. But yes, this book.
If there were only 3 books in the world, what would they be? Or top 3 genre of book? I'm going to go with top 3 genre. She said you could pick either one because only 3 books is kind of daunting. And I agree with her. I'm going to give it a try because I want to challenge myself. So one second.
If there were only 3 books in the world, what would they be? Again, besides the Bible, obviously. If you don't know this about me, I am so passionate about marriage and family, and though I'm single and have not been blessed to be in that season as of yet, I am so excited to be a wife and a mom, and I am so looking forward to starting a family. And because of that, I have read a lot of books on marriage and being a wife, and kind of just making the most of that season of life. And this year, I read a book called Finding the Hero in Your Husband, and this is all about a wife's role in helping her husband reach his potential, but also looking in yourself and seeing, what do I need to work on to do that for him? How can I be the best wife for him so I can embrace that hero in him? Because, we as women, we want that from our spouse, right? To have that man who's just gonna protect us and all of this stuff, but we have a huge role to play in that. And the faith aspect in this and the way it just made the relationship so tangible and I guess not easy to work on, but it opened my eyes to see how I can better myself and grow myself to be a spouse, the best spouse that I can for my future husband. So I loved this, and I totally want so many women to read this. So this is one. Next, I have A Voice in the Wind. I've mentioned this already, but this series was just so impactful for me when I read it years ago. One of the first Christian fiction series I read, and it changed my life. Hadassah, Marcus, all of the characters, Julia, are embedded in my heart, and I would love people to see the story. I mean, the whole series really, but God is just so evident through this whole series, and it is amazing. And then the third book is Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. I read this in 4th grade, and it really solidified my love of books. I felt so connected to this character. It was one of the first books also I read too with a Black character, and just to see the impact of this time period on these young kids' lives, it really made me grateful for the time era that I was born in, even at such a young age. And I just was so moved by this story. I remember crying when I read it in 4th grade, and I've reread it since. And these characters in this whole Logan family series, Mildred D. Taylor is honestly one of my favorite authors of all time, and words will not be enough to describe the impact of this book on my life. And so I would definitely love to read this, if there was the only other books, so yeah. Question 7 is, if you could write a book about anything, what would it be? And nobody really knows this really, except a few people, but I actually did start writing a book many years ago, and I haven't really touched it since, but I feel like God wants me to. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know. It's a weird situation, but I will say it follows 2 timelines of a family. It is, how do I explain this? The first timeline takes place in the 1920s, and it follows the family, I guess, in that era, and they moved from Mississippi to Harlem. And if you don't know, in the 1920s in Harlem, it was all the Harlem Renaissance. There was a lot of prominent, I guess, Black culture really was taking shape in the 1920s in Harlem. There was music, theater, jazz. There was just, the dance. There were so many things happening in the Harlem Renaissance, and so I wanted to incorporate a young Black woman moving who had a dream to pursue art, but lived in the South. She then moves to Harlem, and as she's doing that, she's writing her experience in a journal. I then have that connected to the 1960s of a young girl who lives in Harlem going through civil rights era, and kind of have those stories interwoven in the 1960s era. I have the character meeting a young Jewish boy, and the story, like, I've written like the first 2 chapters, and I was doing a lot of research and stuff. I don't know. That's the kind of gist of it. It sounds kind of like a mess probably, but there's something lined out. I just don't know if I'm going to pursue it, but there's something there. I don't know. Take that what you will, but if I could write a book about anything, it would be that story. It's in there. It's in me. I just don't know. Putting it on paper is daunting, to be honest. So that's that. What character is most like you? And shocker, shocker, I know. You can see here, I have the Divergent tattoo. Tris from the Divergent series, but more specifically, Tris in Insurgent. I just remember crying reading this book when I first read it, because Tris, I'm even going to get emotional now. I really related to Tris in the sense of, like, in this book in particular, she struggled so much with right and wrong, and there was this internal battle in Tris of trying to do the right thing, but also just wanting to be so selfish. And the word be brave is constantly mentioned in this series, because it's like Tris has to literally brainwash herself to, my computer's freaking out, to be bold. And of course, she's one of the strongest characters in a YA novel, in my opinion, besides Katniss, of course. But just her internal struggle of wanting to be selfish, but also being selfless, is something that I thoroughly related to. And just to see her, take a leap from her family, and what the tattoo represented, and all of this stuff, like, Tris is me, and I saw myself in her so much throughout this novel. And what I know, the way that this series ended is so it is October, the devil is a lie, what is going on? I know the way that this series ended causes a lot of controversy, but I loved it. I love the risk that Veronica Ross took with Tris, and it's still one of my favorites. And I got a Divergent trash heart, and I'm not ashamed of it. Question 9 is, how do you plan out your booktube content? And I really don't. I do have a bullet journal, so sometimes I'll plan out the month if I am feeling particularly organized that month, but mostly I just I mood, film, and post. I try to at least do a weekend reading vlog, but I've kind of been slacking on that, but I kind of just feel it out usually, and I post when I can, and I try to I try to at least get one video up a week, just to keep the algorithm moving through my channel. But honestly, it comes and goes in waves, so that's how I post it or plan it. There's no rhyme or reason, and just kind of feel it as I go. And question 10, if you were dying, What book would you read to the world? Oh man, I love this question. I just love questions that have a lot of depth to them. And so I picture this like as if I like was on my deathbed and I had the opportunity to really share an impactful story to the world, right? Something that I just feel like would change people's lives. Oh, goodness me. It's definitely not going to be anything YA. Like, I want it to be something like The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp, right? Something that will open up people's eyes to the Lord. I'm trying to look here. Yeah, you know, I'm going to go with that one because even in that one, there's the talk of death and stuff. And I just feel like that captures the importance of life and the purpose of it really well. So I'm going to go with that. I think that's a great book to share with the world and read, like, broadcast it out to everybody. So yes. All right, so that is going to be the Meet the Booktuber tag. Thank you again, Kristy. These questions were awesome, and I feel like you said, each booktuber is going to have a different response. And I've been watching. I think Kristy just posted hers, and I loved her answers. And of course, I've watched Kristy's video. So yeah, that's going to be my take on it. If you have a booktube channel, please, make a video and share it with us. But I'm gonna at least mention 3. I would really love to hear Miriam's answers to this over at Miriam Elizabeth Reads. I'm also gonna tag Book Talks with Mrs. Thomas. I would love to hear her answers on this tag. And just met Emily, but Emily, if you're watching this, I would love to hear your thoughts. She has her channel's called Emily Reads. I just met her on the live stream that I did on my channel yesterday, and she was awesome. So Emily, if you're watching this, I would love to hear your answers to the questions as well. But of course, anyone can do the tag. You know, you do whatever you see fit. That is going to be it for this video. Thanks again so much for taking the time to watch the video and be here with me. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this, know that you are so loved by God and your life has a purpose. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.